Dr. Phil Valentine is a legend. He's a master of metaphysics, a true historian, a naturopath, an author, not to mention a clinical hypnotherapist with wisdom of the cosmos and the ancient Kemetic sciences. Dr. Valentine has been leading the way for decades, letting us know all about Slick Willie's secrets to who the real Barry is, from ringing the alarm about our food, air, and water. And I am so grateful to introduce Dr. Phil Valentine. How are you?
I'm well, thank you for such an auspicious introduction. I'm
Yeah, no,
wondering if I deserve all of that. Thank you.
of course you do. It's funny. I discovered you about 5 years ago. I was sitting on the couch and Dick Gregory popped up, and that's when I went down the rabbit hole of Dick Gregory, and then that led me to you and everybody else. And I was like, oh my God, there's a whole other world. I've been brainwashed. I'm so
Yeah,
grateful.
yeah. Baba Gregory was a friend of mine.
Yeah, he's a wonderful guy. I guess I'll start right off with the first question I have for you. That is, as we go deeper into the belly of the New World Order, we're seeing the dollar decline and the rise of inflation and more interest in crypto space. Where do you see the future going with the fiat and cryptocurrency?
A good question. Fiat has always pretty much run after 1931, 33, when the bankers, the international bankers, took us off of what the traitorous US Congress at that time sold out the American people to the international bankers. And they made our gold, they hypothecated our gold from about $35 an ounce to what it is today, almost $2,000 an ounce. That was a hypothecation so that they could build up this enormous military might so that the United States would become almost a Pax Americana, that they would use our military might to conquer the world. Two world wars, wars that are continuously going on as we see it today. All of this is based on the international bankers. They have a system of construction destruction. That's how imperialism and the present system worked. It didn't work unless there was destruction. When there's destruction, it means that they can now formulate a new pattern for construction. And in so doing, they could undermine the value of the land that they conquered, just like they did for Germany, just like they did for places in Africa, where they changed the bill. In other words, war was a means of circumventing one's own commerce and one's own financing and one's own fiat. So they take over the fiat of the country that they fought, or the one that they waged war against, or the one that they undermined with the help of the CIA. They would undermine whole governments and then take over the currency of that country, like they did with Iraq. That was a perfect way of undermining the currency of Iraq and then making it like a penny of American work for 100 Iraqi dollars. And then after they brought Iraqi under their own rubric, then they would then build up the Iraqi dollar by putting it into another investment vehicle, and then the Iraqi dollar would then have worth, but they would control that worth. That's how the central banks are doing it. Now here we are in the beginning with the fact that the central banking system that has been in place at this time is now hundreds of trillions of dollars in debt. And so before this entire bubble blows up, explodes like it was supposed to, what they've done is they've moved all their assets or the value of the so-called dollar, which was based on oil, not gold. But they've now taken the value and put it into what they call cryptocurrency. The cryptocurrency, which is essentially the one that Bitcoin created. Bitcoin was created by the CIA, or what they call the Five Eyes, which was the intelligence community of Australia, Great Britain, United States, Germany, and I believe it's one other country, France. I'm not sure, but they were called the Five Eyes because they were the intelligence agencies of all of these bankers. And what happened is the person that they talked about that created Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamura. If you understood what Satoshi means and Nakamura means, if you look into the meaning of it, one means uh, intelligence, or one means one with high acumen, Satoshi, and Nakamoto actually means, I forgot the name of it, but it all comes up to intelligence community. The
Oh,
name itself is a way of dealing with the intelligence community. So Bitcoin essentially was created by the banking cartel as well as the governments in order to maintain their control over the finance and what we call value and worth that was coming into play. So what we are now looking at is that because the fiat has grown such a huge deficit bubble, in order to circumvent World War III, with where the great destruction was, it was destruction and construction, they said that they can't fight now. They don't want to use the atomic warfare that we have because then it would destroy everything, and that people could not recover from it. They wouldn't be able to really, with the way money is, they couldn't construct the way they did with the Marshall Plan after World War II. So what they decided to do was to wage war on humanity by culling the population and killing off the population through medical means and through scientific means. There's a saying that I coined called the scientists of strategic extinction. And this is exactly what they're doing. It's a strategic means of extincting a certain part of the population that would normally have been killed during a world war. So they're doing it through the COVID-19 covert war on the human population. And it's the so-called marshaling of value and wealth into the cryptocurrency space is just another move, the final move towards the cashless system that they've been setting up for the last 50 years.
yeah. What are your thoughts on all of the celebrity idol worship and all of the buck breaking going on and the promotion of the chemically imbalanced, thing that they've been promoting all over?
In what sense? I'm not sure what the
Yeah, all of the celebrities right now promoting the vaccine, basically acting like
ah
a good thing,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, well, the celebrities essentially are paid.
Yeah,
They're shills. They're what they call useful idiots
right.
in the larger plan. And of course, if they were to go contrary to that, like some have, they would be completely ostracized. They would not be allowed to work. They would not be allowed to do anything that would be able, and their families would be threatened. Like I know of many people whose families have been threatened. People have been murdered. They've been killed. It is the move of the so-called New World Order, this great reset. The plan is to make sure that Hollywood, via China, because they're building up China as the newest superpower.
Hmm.
That's why China bought most of Hollywood.
Yeah.
So anything that goes against China, anything that looks like it goes against China, then they marshal out Hollywood in order to buttress up the claim that China is good. Look at Biden. Biden is in the pocket of the Chinese Communist Party. He took $1.5 billion from them, and they threatened him that if he doesn't win, that they will definitely take out his son. They would actually come after that and expose all of his son's um,
Up on the
the
laptop.
yeah, that laptop. In fact, they have pictures of him with the young girl who I don't know if you ever saw the remake of the cartoon Mulan.
Oh, no.
Uh, yeah, the live action one.
Okay.
They have pictures of him. That part of what they paid uh, Joe Biden's son for his influence was this young girl who played the lead in the Mulan, the live action one, and they have pictures of him and her in some very compromising positions. Plus, they have pictures of him, and I did this in my previous webinars, him with a young girl of about 6 years of age.
God. Do you think any justice will come from the Ghislaine Maxwell case or any of this?
I don't think so. What I do think is that some people say that they've already executed a number of high officials like Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama. They've gotten rid of, let me see, who else? George Bush.
Mhm.
They've one or two other people that they said that they're Hillary Clinton. I know that they're about maybe 10 people that they said they have gotten rid of, but they have these clone-like entities, or like for instance, somebody said that because Biden is so compromised mentally, that they have people who are making up. I don't know if you see Hollywood. Hollywood is very good at making up these spaces
Yeah, the
now
face
so that you
mask.
could, yeah, the masks. But they say that Jim Carrey is actually standing in at times to play Biden.
Wow. I wouldn't put it past me. I believe it. Um, what would you say to people who I find myself getting into this situation a lot because I'm pretty spiritual and I do have a lot of friends operating in the religion paradigm of Christianity and Catholic and all that. And it's they look down upon me because I believe that, God is inside us and it's a frequency. What would you say to those people that are operating in the religion paradigm still?
Well, if it comforts them, fine. But if it's about an imposition of their beliefs upon others, or they're ostracizing others because of their beliefs and because others don't believe like they do, then it's another cult. It's
Right.
nothing but a cult, and you're dealing from a cult-like mentality. And most of religious people, from the time that I have started out nearly 40 years ago, most religious people essentially don't want to deal with critical thinking, especially when it comes to something that they come to believe very deeply in them. And I don't challenge that anymore. When I was a young buck, I used to challenge that. And I did something that actually they say has become kind of a good following called the Vampires of Consciousness.
Oh,
And Vampires of Consciousness, I broke down the entire Bible and the meanings, where they came from, the history of them, who said them, who was really saying them, and the fact that the Bible itself is nothing more than a collection of writings based in universal truths. And if you were to take all the religions and bring them together, there is an underlying pearl of universal truth in all of them. It doesn't matter what question, what language you use
right.
in order to interpret what is being said. Universal truths such as love thy neighbor as thyself. You don't need to follow a religion for that. Your mother teaches you good manners and how to be respectful in the whole 9 yards. And if there is a greater deity within, then you go to find that by going within.
Right.
You don't go to find it in a church, because the church is a cesspool of people's idiosyncrasies and madness, and they go there for some kind of self-fulfillment and feeling that because they've attended, that somehow they're washed clean and they feel more righteous than the other man or woman. But then they go back, and then by the time Saturday is done, they've committed so much sins that somehow dressing up and looking pretty and going before the Lord, you believe that you've somehow placated whatever consequences that you're dealing with. And that's what gets to me, is the fact that once you say you've been washed in the blood of Jesus, that no matter what it is you've done, you've been forgiven. But forgiven by who?
Hmm.
You're supposed to actually have recompense and pay back for what it is that you've done. Just saying that, I'm sorry, does not do it. There is a way that we're supposed to give back on that, or else life will take that from you in the form of karma.
Right.
But again, there are people who are Christians, people who are Muslim, all these people who are following along, who need instructions in order to know what is right from wrong, and need to, people who have been on drugs and have been out there on the streets, who've been destitute, who've been criminals. I could see it as a place where they may be able to find some kind of refuge for their actions. But then after that, people who've grown out of catechisms and understand that the Most High is in us, because their Bible states that the kingdom of heaven is within. So why we look them up in the sky, and why are we looking for a man walking on water? The
Yeah.
kingdom of heaven is within.
Blue Pill talks a lot about the power of the number 44. What are your thoughts on that number?
Well, the number 44 is the double. If you look, the double. Well, four is the foundation. I teach this in my university. The fourth square is the base of the pyramid. The pyramid, the pyramid inverted becomes the 4 and the 4. So you're looking at the star, so-called Star of David, as they call it, which is ridiculous. It's a hexagram.
Yeah.
But the 44 essentially is the double foundation, one in the heavens and one on earth. And as far as whatever it is they teach as the number, it's 2222, again, 22 and 22. So a lot of the numbers that you're looking at has to do with mathematical equations based upon how the creator fixes itself in the density we call third density or third dimension. And 44, 33, 22, 11, 99, all of the double numbers essentially are what the foundation, say 4 is the foundation number, and from that everything else is added on. There's 1, 2, and 3. Those are the three sides of the pyramid. The fourth is the base. So each number up until 9 is a living principle whereby the creator, using what that number actually means, because each number has a meaning, each number is a consciousness itself. And as those numbers interact, they bring about the entire mosaic that we call the material world. So the doubles, the 1, 11, 2, 22, 3, 33, each one is a harmonic of the next. So 44 is a harmonic of 4. I know a lot of people may not know what I'm talking about,
No, that
but
sounds great to me.
understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. What's your take on all of the UFO stuff happening right now? What do you think's going up there in the sky?
Well, two more things are happening as far as the UFO. First of all, they are identified. There's
Mm.
no unidentified. And they're not objects. They're actually, some of them are actually what I call projections from different densities, because we live in densities of water. The water itself essentially is almost as if it's a prism, whereby you see all these colors. We are actually underwater. What we're breathing seems to be air, but it's actually a rarefied form of water. Just like you get water more dense when you get, say, to the ocean, to a river, you're watching water more dense and the molecules more densely constructed, whereas in the air it's less constructed, and we are designed in order to deal with water at this level. The fish and their breathing apparatus are designed to deal with it under greater pressure. So we're all underwater at some point or another. How we get past that is what the ancestors has taught us, that water itself, when bent, can create light windows, and they call that that messing with the water and dealing with it, sending a beam of light into the water spectrum. It creates this light, and it's called sonoluminescence. Sonoluminescence, where you project a specific light, like laser, into a medium of water. When it builds up to a certain density, a light explodes. And so, right inside of that tank of water, you can make these balls of light by shooting a certain density of light into it. Well, that's what it is that these entities are doing. They're coming in from different vectors of dimensions, and they're focusing in the way our ancestors did at 90 degrees, and they're creating that portal of light. And what you all see in the sky is like a trace of them coming through, visiting, and then all of a sudden they seem to disappear. That's one of the theories based upon me dealing with some information I came into I can't talk about.
Sure.
The other is those who want to control that eventuality in the form of the Vatican dealing with something called Project Bluebeam.
Mhm.
And Project Bluebeam is the way that they've constructed a alien invasion scenario where they have the sophisticated technologies to deal with third, fourth, and fifth dimensional holograms to give a sense of solidity to nothing more than light, which is a gigantic light show. And this light show is going to be beaming into, again, this screen that we have. Now, I can give you an idea of how that works. When you go to the movies, you look at a flat screen, right?
Mhm.
look in the back, and this is a man or woman has a projector that is shooting out there, and all of a sudden, a whole world opens up in front of you. Well, all you're doing is looking at light that has been qualified, light that has actually captured other light, and entities that may exist in that light have put it on a piece of celluloid, and then with light project that celluloid and what's content onto a screen. Well, that's how life is. Life is nothing but projections, projections onto a tapestry that we call third density. And we are living in that illusion. And when we are done with that illusion, we dive back into what we really are, nothing more than sparks of light.
Wow. What do you feel about dark matter?
Nothing much, because it's nothing more than qualified space.
Mhm.
Space is the feminine aspect, the masculine aspect to time. Time and space is masculine and feminine. Space is the environment that time, which is the masculine, feminine, and space is the feminine masculine. These are the two components, the tapestry, the canvas whereupon life is actually molded. I teach my students that time is one of the elements of creation. Most people see that time seems to be this visceral or abstract that man has created based on his brain. Well, he's half right. Time is actually an element like fire, air, water, and earth. And to those Christians in John 1 and 1, in the beginning, God created, in the beginning it was the Word, and I mean Genesis, I mean John 1 and 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Well, what is the Word? Understand the esoterics of the Bible. The Word essentially is fire, air, water, and earth. And that's what we are constructed of: fire, air, water, and earth made flesh. We are the Word made flesh. But the Word does not come together in this particular level, in this particular space, in this density, this slowed down density that we call third density. It doesn't come together unless thought and time occupies that space. So time and thought are together. In other words, when you look at my face, you're seeing the four elements: fire, air, water, and earth. Fire for sight, air for hearing, water for taste, earth for smell. So on your face is the word. Now, how does the word occupy this space? Well, thought is the fifth element. Time is the fifth element. So thought and time are the same. Without time, there is no thought. Without thought, there is no time. So the four elements plus one, the fifth element, is time. And time is what brings together and coheses or creates the cohesion. The time clock puts the time stamp on all life. That's why life is born, builds to a crest, begins to degenerate, and dies back to its original state, which is light.
Wow. So you are of the knowing that this is a plane and there's such things as telepathy and time travel. Would you
Mm-hmm.
be able to get into a little bit of that here?
Well, telepathy is nothing more than using the essential state of water, the way that essentially the whales and dolphins communicate through clicks and sounds, high pitches. But the brain, when thought is marginalized or put on, say, an oscilloscope or on a scientific instrument, you can hear thought inside of your head. Have you ever listened to yourself think and hear music and so forth? Well, when you create those images of sound and pictures, they're actual things in your head that can be calibrated if the instrument is sensitive enough. Well, as certain whales can make a click and talk to other whales 5 miles away in the water, telepathy works the same way. If we had one of those organs in our heads that hasn't gone to sleep, based upon the fact that humanity has degenerated, if we did not degenerate that much, we'd have gone back to our original state of being able to transmit thought wave energies. In other words, go into time and breach time, time travel, and send out particular thought wave patterns that would be picked up as images, because we don't think in words, we think in images. And that's why our ancestors did all those paintings on the wall in ancient Kemet, because we think and dream in images. We don't think in words unless the words and the images are together with it. And we're thinking about, say, we think about music, and all of a sudden we think about a song I like with Earth, Wind, and Fire. And all of a sudden I'm seeing Earth, Wind, and Fire, and the music is alongside of it, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
So they come together. But in sleeping, when you're sleeping and you're dreaming, that's when, you know, things get a little crazy, because depending on what you ate, if you went to bed too early after you ate, depending on what you did not resolve during the time that you were awake and you were worried and you went to sleep, all this mixes up and becomes the chemistry. And then your brain, with the thoughts that you created, thoughts create chemistries, and that's how we recall our memories. Our memories are based on chemical recall. And so now we have these nightmares. Oh my God, I dreamed I was being eaten by a crocodile or something crazy like that. And that's because all these chemistries are mixing up together, and they're coming out in that manner. But anyway, as you were saying, the, the hieroglyphics of the mind, and what we are dealing from within, what we are concentrating mostly on. If you understand what I'm saying, that we have and I don't want to get too lost and keep the people blending all the way out. Our mind, you know, I don't take, because this is me in my university.
Oh, okay.
You know, I just
Yeah.
take people off the plane, and I don't want to lose your new customer
Oh,
base.
no, you're fine.
Oh, okay.
They want to go on a ride. As soon as I put them,
Oh, okay.
they're gonna be like,
Good.
whoa,
Good.
yeah,
Good.
take us on a ride.
Well, up to
Uh,
you.
yeah, go into it. I'm happy to hear about it if you're comfortable with talking about it. If you don't want to talk about it, I can ask you another question.
Well, yeah, let's go on. We can come
Yeah,
back. We can like dial back to that.
absolutely. You had some really mind-blowing things to say about the Mandela effect. Can you share them here?
Well, again, this is the conversion of thought patterns. I believe the Mandela effect is based upon the social consciousness, and how they have gotten, somehow they have gotten, their sophisticated instruments have been able to tap into what I call the social consciousness stream of of what we call the fifth root race. The social consciousness stream is a stream of consciousness that circles with the sun. And that stream of consciousness is what is bathed around the flat earth, what we call the flat plane, what I call the flat plane. But as the sun circulates, it's not only just circulating light and dark and so forth, it is circulating and sending out consciousness from different parts of the world. And we're picking up the life patterns and the thought patterns of hundreds of millions of people, those who are sensitive, and we're passing it along, and people are feeling and becoming one with certain strong. That's why they needed to get into technology and get you hypnotized into the television, into movies, into looking at what's on your screen, into your phone. They want to take away the ability for you to organically have conscious interface with the social consciousness that's circulating with the sun. We are in a gigantic, what we call this, like a gyroscopic, um, the word I'm looking, cyclotron. Uh, what's his name? Tesla talked about cyclotronic energy, and that the spinning of the glow, the dome creates a cyclotronic effect, just like the sun moving around us with the moons creates a cyclotronic effect. And so, as social consciousness is swimming, I believe that what they have done is tapped into what they call the akasha, and they are creating memory patterns that don't exist in the memory patterns that most of us who are locked into this consciousness, they are taking that memory out of the the timeline by causing your thoughts to have more than one ways to see that same timeline. That's why that's how they played with history. The Mandela effect is nothing new. The Mandela effect was created a long time ago when they snatched the true history of this land, for example, and took it away from us and gave us the John Wayne version of our city and I mean our country. And that Mandela effect was to take away the memory patterns that would have been down coded into the black females' mitochondria that would have given us a direction forward. But now, because they have interfered with that and they've brought on this convergence of timelines and they're messing with the timeline signatures of consciousness for this plane, that we don't know whether or not the ones that they're giving to us, removing certain things, taking it out, adding certain things, we don't know which one it is that we're in. But in here, your spirit knows it. Your mitochondria knows it. Your heart and your soul knows it, which is why it's sometimes a little disorienting to some people. But I did a whole thing on the Mandela effect. I call it the Mandela defect.
That's so funny. What are your thoughts on the attack on the masculine energy? I know you probably get asked that a lot.
Whoa, that's one of my
Deep question.
favorites. I had I don't know if you've ever seen my book, The Wounded Womb.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
one of my questions. So we combine.
yeah, yeah. I've been at this for I would say since 1992, 93, when first of all, I had written a book called The Wounded Womb for women who were dealing with problems of the womb. There was a very, very high concentration of our sisters with fibroid tumors, cysts, early onset endometrial problems. And I was wondering what it is that was troubling our sisters. And a lot of what it is that came out in that study, based upon me talking to elder women, I talked to young women, older women, mostly the elder women, and asked them what the situation was and what did they think. And I began to see that there was a pattern. First of all, feminism came in, and it wasn't the old fashioned feminism, it was a new form of feminism, not one that wanted to be equal to men, but wanted to dominate everything that men did and essentially take over that. But I began studying feminism and what it meant and who started it. Rockefeller himself funded it. And I began looking at feminism from a political strategy, not just from it undermining the relationship between men and women. What was the long range plan and why was it instituted and funded by those who are actually men? Well, to study that, you have to study the psychology of men and women, the psychology of societies, the psychology of power. All of these things come together. And what I found was that the men, European men, white men, needed to maintain control. So they gave power to the women to be able to control society by a huge type of promotion and propaganda about men being A, B, and a third. So if you knew anything about art of war, you saw that the strategy was simple. In the art of war, it stated that if you were coming up against a superior force, a superior enemy, you couldn't destroy it by going straight at it. You had to destroy it from within. And the way to do that, they said in the art of war, is to undermine the primary authority in that society, create distrust in that society, and to create distrust against the governing body. Well, if you micromanage that particular plan, you just to destroy the family, you could micromanage power versus love. And men essentially were the power brokers in society. And in the family, men led the family, women were the administrators of the family structure. Well, if you flip that the way the Romans did when they conquered a country, they would take the men and send the young boys and the men off to different parts of the world where they essentially conquered and use them as an occupying army, and then raise the women to do the job that the men did. That was an old ploy. So what they did was they began to use distrust. Number one, distrust, and then in every corner, destroy authority, the authority figure, which is the masculine figure. Now, the authority masculine figure can only be that if he was ready to be, had the capacity to lead a family by being able to take care and protect the family. So what did they do? They removed all of the jobs, the mid-level jobs, all of the jobs that maintained what we call middle class autonomy with the nuclear family as the head, took that and shipped that all overseas. And so the manufacturing jobs that the men had that used to be used where they had and could actually lead a family and even create a family, gone. And then from that point on, with the media, just distrust, men are this, and anytime men showed what masculine power was, that was just macho BS and so forth. When the women did it, that was like powerful and they were independent. And women bought into it over the last 30 years. And now the destruction is complete. The women today are having so many problems, you know, being happy. The number one disease in our country today is depression, and 85% of it is actually suffered by women.
Hmm, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you have any knowledge of Aleister Crowley operating on the melanated body? And if you don't, can you touch on melanin?
Yeah, Aleister Crowley, well, his teacher was a black man who dealt with the sexual energies, sexual forces. Why did I forget his name? It just went out of my head. But Aleister Crowley was a Satanist, and his daughter is his daughter was, I guess, Barbara Bush.
Hmm,
Uh, what's the name? Bush's wife looks just like him.
yeah.
And he used to sacrifice, and he said that the boys, brown children, uh, are the best to sacrifice because their adrenochrome is the purest and strongest. And melanin, a lot of times, again, kind of, I'm not sure whether or not you want to call it that.
Correct.
I've told people that melanin is not a color, it's not a polymer, it's an intelligence. And most people say, well, what do you mean it's an intelligence? I could see it on my skin. No, melanin is not what you see at the end result of your skin. Melanin is an intelligence. And if you want to get into the higher metaphysics of melanin, it's actually the expressed intelligence of the hydrogen molecule. The expressed intelligence of hydrogen is the first element. Okay, so being the first element is the representation of the first, or what the Most High would represent itself in matter. So as you look at it, you'll see that everything, basically organic, has at this base carbon 666, and melanin itself is the intelligence that operates behind all forms of organic matter. Even inorganic matter has residues of melanin. And so melanin is not only an intelligence, but it is also a semiconductor. A semiconductor is a conduit that does not lose energy when energy passes through it. For instance, if you were to take, say, an electrical cord and you plug it in the wall, and you notice sometimes when you touch it, it's very hot. Well, the heat is representative of the escape of energy, and therefore it is not the purest form to actually transit energy from one area to the next. But with semiconductors, uh, you don't lose that energy. So the, the, the one thing about melanin is that the semiconductor it means that the full force of the Most High's energy you being an avatar of God. The full force of it, the full spiritual connection that would be picked up as the dark to the light and the light to the dark. That is what melanin does. It picks up all forms of light, and therefore light being a information transference medium, you can pick up more. You pick up more spiritual energies, more of the frequencies that the sun would definitely give you. It would open you up to a lot more. So melanin as an intelligence essentially is what gave us the abilities to travel through the mind, to build pyramids, to go into outer space meaning to traverse through different water mediums to other life forms, to different spaces and places, to be able to pick up different rhythms, the heartbeat of the Most High, and to put it into music, to be the forebearers of talent, the forebearers of creativity. All of that is what melanin is.
It's beautiful. You touched on something happening to the Zulu people in one of your old lectures. Do you want to touch on that?
Well, real quick, I mean, the Zulus say that they're from Mars.
Yeah.
And I believe that what the Zulu was speaking about was that they weren't from Mars, is that the influence of Mars in the dome gave them more of the information they needed to grow as a culture. And like I said, in Africa and over here, let's not get it twisted too. A lot of our brothers and sisters believe we all came from Africa. We didn't.
Hmm.
We were all over the plane. I don't know if you saw any of the what is that Hidden Colors.
Okay, yes.
The Hidden Colors, if they saw one of my said, I said there's no place on earth wherever the European digs for evidence of his existence and his origins, he finds the black man.
Yeah.
And
Some
there's
Irish
no,
blood in me.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the Irish were black, original ones. First, my mother comes from a line called Kelly, and so I
It paused. I'm not sure if you can still hear me.
hue, or actually man, kind of man, mankind. Uh, Hold on a second.
Sure.
My internet just showed it was unstable. Hope it didn't cut off. Yeah, where there was a kind of man that was created, and we're seeing it now take over because I believe that we were responsible for that in some way, shape, or form through this legend that they call Yaku, who began creating this offshoot that represented the fourth and fifth root race that we're coming out of right now to go back into the sixth root race. This creation of the European, he said, if you read some of the old books, it said that the way that you create a Caucasian, or you create a what do they call them again? With the pale skin. I mean, when they're just pure white. What do you call? What's that?
Neanderthal?
No, just pure white.
Oh.
I know. See that word?
Question anybody. I don't have.
Yeah, it when you have just a pure pale skin,
Right.
they said that the way to do that, and they said they experimented on this, is that you get a melanated woman and you put her in the dark. You don't let her see the sun for 9 months.
Hmm.
And back in the day, that was tantamount to causing a kind of birth defect in the womb, and they were creating. Supposedly, legend had it that Yaku was creating a slave class in order to do work. And I'm saying, with the kind of genius that they had acquired, that we had acquired, why would we need to create a slave class?
Hmm.
Not unless somebody else was creating a slave class and Frankenstein got out the lab.
Hmm. Wow.
Mhm.
All right, I just have a few more questions and then I'll let you scurry away forever. um, you talk a lot about mind alchemy. I know you
Mhm.
probably touched on that with some of the questions you answered, but would you be able to touch a little bit more?
Well, it would depend on how you want to use the mind. If the mind is being used for healing, if it is used for setting up a trajectory towards success in an endeavor, all of that is what we teach at our university. And by the way, if I may, I'd tell a number that I could leave.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
whatever sites or websites you want to promote, I'm happy to. If you want to put your Cash App too, that's fine as well.
oh, okay. They see Dr. Nalani here. I just want everybody to understand that I'm not Dr. Nalani. That's my beautiful wife. Um, I'm Dr. Phil Valentine, just in case, so that you don't see that. This is her broadcast medium we're using. So hopefully everyone understands that. But if they want to, any of our services, vaccination exemption, or to join our university for our summer session, or if they want to, better yet, if they want to join me at my next webinar. I have a very powerful webinar coming up to discuss everything that's happening, like we were discussing the cryptocurrency, but also everything that's happening with the vaccinations and all the deaths happening around the world. If they're interested in joining me, they can send just send a request to my private email at sanu777 at gmail.com. That's SUNNU777 at gmail.com. Okay. And just put in the subject box, just put webinar link in all caps, webinar link.
You got it.
Okay. And then I will be able to help you out and send you the link for you to register. By the way, on the 20th of this month, it goes back to its regular price. Right now, it's been discounted. So it's going to go back to its regular price on the 20th, 10 days beforehand. So everybody, if you can, get in as soon as you can. Now, as far as the mind is concerned, we teach that. We teach it, and it's an unfolding process. It's not something that somebody jumps into. It's a peeling away of a lot of what we've gathered or we've kind of cemented ourselves behind. All of the different ways that we protect ourselves, all the different ways that we get in our way when we are seeking happiness or what we want to do with our minds on a positive tip. So what I have done is to kind of constructed these lesson plans to get you to analyze and to see your thought processes for what they are doing, how they may be impeding you in one way or another, how you may be holding yourself back, what you are doing to yourself with certain thoughts, certain words that you become accustomed to speaking that are actually impeding you subconsciously. And you wonder why you're being defeated. You're actually self-defeating. So as far as the mind is concerned, that is a very nebulous thing. It's what it becomes as your thought process. The mind is, let's just say it's a fertile field, but the thought process becomes the seeds that you throw in there. Now, what are you going to throw in there? You're going to throw in there weed seeds, and I mean you can have it for for medicinal purposes, but depending on what you sow into that mind field, and I have the part I call not a mind field, but a mind field, that field of imagination, that field of possibility, all of that essentially is the mind. But the thought process that occupies that controls that mind energy, the thought process is what we must investigate. The thought process is what we must take inventory of. What are your thought processes based on? What is it that triggers you? What are you in your own timestamp? Because remember, thought and time are one. So, what are you doing with your time? How are you occupying that space with time and with your thoughts? And that's what causes us to actually use mind energy and defeat ourselves, find ourselves constantly being defeated. We don't know what to do with our thoughts. Our thoughts become our worst enemies. So the classes that we teach, and by the way, you can call 800-847-1291. Again, 800-847-1291. And please, when you do call, leave your number at least twice. Speak clearly. Make sure that you're speaking into the phone, because the most frustrating thing is us not being able to hear what you have to say. We want to call back. We're a mom and pop organization. We understand that when you call that you wish to talk to us, and we want to talk to you. Also, um, um, Donna was very, very kind to say that I could leave my Cash App if you feel that the information works for you. Then just like my email, Sanu777 is the Cash App. $SUNNU 777. And I guess that's it as far as the mind is concerned. If there are any questions you may have, I can elaborate.
That was such a nice last question. I don't want to talk about communism right now because you ended it on such like a nice way to come to your website and get your mind right. So maybe we'll just leave it at that. Everybody knows that communism is bad. I know you know that. If you don't, now you know.
Well, it has some stepchildren,
Yeah.
and it's called socialism and Marxism,
Hmm.
where you want to make sure that and the blue states are the ones that actually are taking on that mantle, and they're undermining our constitution, which we created, by the way, not the European. The European essentially subsumed our constitution, and the Pope created his own, and so the Queen created her own. The constitutions that we have is the de jure Constitution of 1789. We're the ones who created that. We were here long before that. We have a Supreme Court that goes back to 1726, 1712, long before George Washington and so-called Revolutionary War. We were the ones trying to break away from the Black British. That's the true history of what we were dealing with. So understand that we are the original so-called Americans. We the autochthonists. We are the ones that created the Constitution. The ones for the Pope is called the Municipal Constitution. That's the one in the 10-mile District of Columbia. That's his constitution. The territorial constitution is the Queen of England. So there are three different constitutions alive right now. There's even a fourth and a fifth. But you have to understand that the de jure constitution is being laid in abeyance, and that's us. We are the ones who created that. And that's the one that I base my vaccination exemption package on, the de jure constitution that belongs to us.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Phil Valentine. This was a dream come true. I really hope you have a wonderful night. And thank you so much for taking the time out to do this.
And thank you for your kind invitation, everyone. And everyone, please support our sister Donna. She has such a beautiful set and music. Are you kidding? As an ex-musician, look at
My
that.
sound partner is a musician. I sing though. So he plays on.
Oh, you sing?
Yeah.
Well, so did I. I was a frontline singer
Oh,
long time
with
ago.
James Brown, right? I think I read somewhere that you used.
Yeah, I opened up for James Brown and opened up for the Stylistics, the Delphonics, the Five Stair Steps,
Ooh,
all of them. We were pretty
and play
good.
some
I
music.
have Yeah, back in the day, matter of fact, one of my songs that I wrote back when I was 18 it was used by Jay Electronica and Mos Def
Oh,
in
wow.
Holiday. The music in the background that was sampled was taken from that, and a couple of others too. It's called You Have Everything."
I'm
You can look it
surprised
up.
not a lot of rappers ask to sample your stuff. I mean, everything you say is amazing, especially when you go back to your YouTube clips. Like, that'd be a whole amazing song if they just paid you to make a song.
Well, I'm glad for that because I love young brothers and sisters who are creative, and maybe one day I'd hear you sing and hear the brother play.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much for
Thank you.
this kind invitation.
Have a good one.
Take care.
Bye. Well, that was my first episode of the O Donna podcast. I hope there is something that is of enjoyment for you. And always remember, take what resonates and leave what doesn't.